Ideme na to, ideme to proudiť. Je 24.4.2025. Počítame 2054. Dneska je 523. relaxačný tréningový deň. To z výpočtu 15, 15, 14, 14, 13, 13, 12, 12, 11, 11. Predné, zadné, zadné, predné, predné, zadné, zadné, predné a predné, zadné. Začíname 20, 54. Ideme dať prvých 15, 15, schopné bolo zvukovú stopu. Dorazíme Fallout. Ako to pekne presrali. V tom last epochu, goddammit, to pohnojili. To neuveriteľne pohnojili. Strašne to pohnojili. Ideme na to, ideme to proudiť. Je 24.4. Masívny problém to není. Pre najhoršie ma zabijú.
So it's been a week now since Last Epoch has dropped its new season, and I had a video a couple days ago about like pros and cons of the game, but as time has gone on and I've done some reflecting, I've kind of realized a bigger issue for me rather than all the individual little things I listed in that video. I think there's a bigger overarching issue. So it's kind of like you go into something having expectations, a certain mindset about it. You're expecting a certain outcome. And then you go into it and it's not that, and it's jarring. It's like when you drink a glass of water and it's actually lemonade. So you like take a sip and you're like, oh, because, well, lemonade's not gross, but you were expecting water and it's just jarring, right? Like normally you wouldn't spit at lemonade, but when you thought it was water and you get sour acidity, it's like, ugh. So I'm gonna graph 3 parts of the game right now. They're all interlinked, but they're all a little bit different too. So on Aberoth patch, I'm going to go through here. Here's what I'm gonna do. Aberoth patch, the patch in which Aberoth came out, and this is Uber Aberoth, aka this patch. Not necessarily like the fights themselves. I'm not talking about the fight themselves. I'm talking about the overall state of the game. So difficulty. A lot of people, before I start, a lot of people have been saying, oh, you're playing Paladin. That's why the game's so easy for you. Well, I just started a Falconer now, and yeah, I'm blowing through corruption, no problem. I did not have gear saved up for my first character. I mean, I had like a little bit, but really nothing. Like I had 0 exalted items. I just had shards to make crappy rare items. So really not a huge boost. And the game's still really easy, okay? Like the fact that this is an easy game, okay? And it's only gotten easier, and I don't think that's in itself a bad thing. It's more about what I'm saying, the expectations part. So the patch when Aberoth came out, difficulty, it started kind of hard. Now I'm going to be honest, there was at one point in this game where Acts 1 and 2 were actually like the hardest ARPG acts of all time, I swear to God. I think it was fixed for Aberoth, so I'm going to go with it's fixed. Yeah, so it starts around here, still like a relatively low difficulty, and then as you get more loot in the campaign, it goes down. And then assuming you are a sane person, you will go to maps in Act 7 and skip the Lagon fight, because if you're fighting Lagon in campaign, you're already losing. So here is the difficulty would be really low by the end of the campaign when you're going into maps. And then when you get into maps, or rather monoliths, it will be a slow burn in difficulty up over time. Slow linear burn, just because of the way corruption works. That's what corruption is, right? It just goes up with, hey, get that off my screen. So yeah, it just goes up over time as corruption increases damage, HP on enemies. It's just a linear difficulty curve, right? And then this patch, it is more something like this. It starts very easy, and then you will get the slow burn in maps, but it's a like a much slower burn. Actually, that's a bad line. It's just a much slower linear curve, and then you hit Aberoth, and it's like boom, crazy. First Aberoth, not that crazy. Maybe it's like, I didn't include the spike, but maybe it's like that much of a spike or something. Uber Aberoth, way crazier, whole different story. I got to 500 corruption. Here would be 500 corruption. I was doing maps no problem on Paladin. It's going to be different on other classes anyways, but like the curve will maybe be here. Like maybe it would be like this instead. But point is, the disparity in difficulty here is insane. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but when the disparity in difficulty here was this before, it's like jarring, right? And then we have gearing. So Aberoth patch, gearing was something like this. You start with nothing, and then you kind of get like a little bit in campaign, not really. And then you hit maps. And then it's like, okay, it's still slowly going up, maybe at a little bit faster rate. And then you get your Circle of Fortune prophecies going, and then boom, you get a loot explosion. And then it kind of tapers down as you build up more of your favor, and then boom, you get a loot explosion, and then boom, you get a loot explosion. And along these lines, like you hit your like 1 LP items, 2 LP items, not an exact like curve here, but you get the point, right? You have these big spikes in gearing, and you get like these very obvious big dopamine moments. You hit the good affix on your LP item. You get the loot explosion every once in a while. You have to refarm gear if you don't get the right LP. When you hit it, it feels really good. So on gearing this patch, it goes like, all right, got nothing. All right, boom, you got a loot lizard. And then you got like nothing. Boom, you got 3 more loot lizards in your next map. Boom, 3 more loot lizards. Now, I don't want to hear that you got no loot lizards. You're just unlucky, okay? I think if you're not seeing regular loot lizards in your campaign, you're just really unlucky at this point. I could be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. And obviously, okay, it wouldn't actually be this high. It'd be more like boom, 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 or whatever. But you get the point. And then over time, you'll get into maps, and you'll keep kind of like getting these loot lizard drops and whatnot, maybe some exalted drops and stuff. And then you hit your favor and COF point, and then it becomes like boom, prophecies, and then it becomes like you get your LP items, but now all the LP, your first LP is Your first LP is guaranteed, so that's like boom. And then, you know, you get the point. Like, you just get way higher gear, way faster. There's less defined dopamine moments as opposed to before. These are obviously not the scale, but it kind of gives you an idea of the timeline here. And then you kind of flatline. Once you got your 2 LP items, you kind of really flatline for a while because getting 3 LP and higher is a much, much lower chance. Maybe you get 1 or 2 here, right? And for the record, like the blue and the green graph have nothing to do with each other, okay? So don't look at where those are compared to each other. Then loot in the Aberoth patch, I guess that follows the same curve as gear.
Ale je to zaujímavý. Je to zaujímavý. Dorazujeme. Ale je to zaujímavý. ...523. relaxačný running za nami bol 24.4.2025, skončíme 21.06. Segment trval 12 minút. 12 minút 20 sekúnd.